Want us to join our hands as we welcome our online community and the people that are watching us from their homes, on their phones, on their laptops, and on the different gadgets. We see you, we recognize you, and we love you. Even when so many times we are loving on each other and looking at each other while we are speaking, we are not leaving you behind because we know that you are very, very important. And number one, we know that you're taking this growth journey so seriously together with us, whether you're in Italy or Germany or US or UK, those in Doha, yes, those in Dubai, we really, really acknowledge the fact that you have taken time to love on yourself, to invest in yourself, and to grow together with us. So we are not leaving you behind. Father, we thank you, and I thank you for everyone that is under the hearing of my voice. I know that this is a time where you want to consecrate people helpers and people that are willing to commit their time, invest in themselves to go, because the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. And we are training, we are toiling, we are learning, we are going through the process, but we believe that at the end of the process there is a reward, and we are going to be those change makers, the change agents, and people that are going to cause the world to have some peace, some sleep, to enjoy marriages, to bring proper children, and to even have better lives. We thank you because that is happening. In the name of Jesus we prayed. Amen. All right, so today I felt the need for us to start at the deep end, okay? At the deepest end. When we come on the journey of personal development, even when we are holding our different crafts, one thing is you come for the strategy, but that is what you want. What you need most of the time is the mindset shift about the different things. So now I give you both the strategy and the mindset shift. And right now it's the mindset shift that we want to be able to start on. Because as we sign on this for me is like, there's somewhere in the Bible where it talks about, in Luganda, it was Ebibe. What do we call that in English? The fox, yes. That fire was lit on their tails, and they were sent into the forest, into the gardens, and they burnt down everything. So you realize that in the training, what we are doing right now is we are setting ablaze. We are setting ourselves ablaze so that we can go into the dying world, into the world that is giving up, into the world that is throwing in a towel, into the world of people that have anxiety and are depressed, are overwhelmed, and they're just mixed up and confused. So what we are doing is we are saying there is a holy fire that we are lighting so that we will go to the ends of the world with the good news, with deliverance, and that people at the hearing of our sound, they will never be the same again. Even when they are just under our leadership, they will never be the same again. Even the people in your life, your boyfriend, your fiancé, your husband, this is not just changing you to change others. This is changing you first so that everything around you can change, so that you can carry that change everywhere else. Because you cannot change anyone if you are not changed. Okay? So now what we do in this segment is we set you ablaze. And what I am terming this message as is wet wood. Wet wood. Wood. Okay, because this thought came from the experience. We have just graduated some gladiators, and actually I've been going through all the cohorts that we have had. We've had more than 9 cohorts of more than 40 people, 50 people graduating, going about making change. Most of them are out there practicing, but I realized that there is a certain percentage, it can be 10% or 20%, but of people that came and never embraced the change or are never accepted to be lit. And there are reasons as to why. So I went down, I had to sit down with God and ask him, you told me that whoever comes into my vicinity will never go the same. Why is it that some people, even when you light a fire and they come close to the fire, they can never catch the fire? Now, I want you to change it and also put it in your scenario. That wherever you are going, you have also talked to some people. And you have seen that there are some people that even if you drum sense in their head, they will never change. As in, you bring a fire of change, you tell them what you know can work for them, and clearly they leave it on the table. Or Like nothing changes about their lives. And then there are people who come to you and they're like, my goodness, you flipped my life upside down. I don't know what I would do without you. And those are like maybe 60 or 70%. But there is a reason as to why some wood is dry and some wood is wet. For some of you that have stayed in the villages, I've stayed in many villages, but you realize that when the firewood, even when you have firewood in the compound, in the dry seasons, they can leave it out because they know nothing is really going to happen. But do you realize that even in the dry seasons, when you come in the morning, the bigger logs cannot light the fire? Because there is the fog and the dew, and so there is a bit of moisture, so they cannot. That is why they will tell you, get the smaller firewoods, light them up so that you can put on the bigger logs so that they can catch later. So they will first bring the smoke because now they are eradicating the dew that has fallen on them. And in the rainy seasons, clearly, they will tell you to bring the wood, either kubifuji, like some of you are in townhouses. You even don't understand what I'm talking about. But they will tell you to bring the wood in. They will even tell you to put it closer to the fire, because the closer to the, or even up, because then it dries up so well that when you put it on fire, you don't need too much time for it to be able to catch the fire. Now, I want you to bring that analogy along with you as we are going deep into this lesson. That there is wood that can never be impacted by exposure or access to fire. Now, that is wet wood. And that is representative of some people. The people that you're going to find out there. The people that are in your life. And sometimes it represents you in certain aspects of life. Yes, because our seasons are not all the same. Do you know that there are certain seasons where you will easily catch the fire and there is a positivity around you? And you know, when someone speaks about something so small like this, for you, you think about it, you even get revelations, like you're really easily catching the fire. And then there are some seasons where you will not even understand yourself. You'll be like, oh, who am I? You know, you're just dragging your feet, your mind is dragging. You see someone speaking sense, other people are clapping, and you're like, am I the only one who does not understand what they are talking about? Like, clearly you're catching on late, you know? You're not understanding the jargons, you're not understanding the jokes, you're not understanding why. The seasons are different. So, if we have access to the fire and we are not catching the fire, that means we have to find out what the problem is, right? If we have access to the fire and we are not catching up. It's like people saying, you rub shoulders with the rich people, you know you can become rich. Do you know that there are people that have rubbed their shoulders with rich people all their lives? And they have never caught the fire? Because they have a different mentality. When someone has a servant mentality, forever they are going to remain servants. But do you know that someone can have a leadership mentality that even when they step into the room and they are the youngest, they'll be the one calling the shots? Do you see the scenario? In a minute, we will talk about what brings about all that. But if you cannot catch the fire, you have to ask yourself, what is wrong with my wood? Is my wood wet? What is wrong with my wood? And one thing I discovered while I was preparing for this session is, sometimes we think the wood has to be pushed in water in order for it not to catch the fire. Do you know that it only takes 40% of moisture or water to drench the wood? It doesn't have to be dripping, no. But for as long as it is a bit wet, it cannot catch the fire, just like we have talked about. You will turn it and you will turn it and you will turn it until you'll be like, you know what, this smoke is too much. Let me just bring it out and maybe just put in some dry wood. So that means we don't need too many things. So now, some of the things that are drenching us, because you might ask, but what is exactly drenching us? What are we dripping of? Overwhelm, stress. Anxiety. You are anxious all the time. Some of us, we are drenched and we are dripping from the toxic relationships, toxic partners. They are like parasites They never let you grow. Some of us, we have manipulative partners, or even bosses, or even friends. But we have all these things that are happening, and some of us are like, nothing affects me anymore. But if you really spoke the truth, actually things are affecting you, but you're putting on a strong face. But when you are alone, you are crying. When you are alone, you are mixed up, you are confused, you're getting stuck. It doesn't have to be 100%, because some of us think that, you know what, I just have to be in a place where someone is abusing you. No, no one needs to abuse you. They just need to manipulate you. They need to gaslight you. They just need to tweak the truth a bit. They need to omit certain truths and speak lies. And that is enough to make you cold and to make you wet. The reason as to why I'm talking about this is because we are people helpers. Okay? We are people helpers. That means we invest time in people. We do not just spend, because there is a difference between spending time with people and investing time in people. Spending time with people, that is more like small talk. That is spending time. Investing time in people is you making yourself better so that you can better others. But do you know that sometimes we have invested in the wrong people? Yeah. And that causes exhaustion, because you are investing where you are not needed. You are investing where people are not taking whatever you are giving to them. And so, after some time, you're like, this is really exhausting. Eh? What am I actually doing? Have you ever done good to someone and they never saw any good? Do you feel like doing more good? Do you even waste any more day of your life? And please, while you said no, I want you to be very careful, because so many of us are actually continuously investing in places where we are not needed. You invest your resources, you invest your time, you invest, even if it's about speaking, by the way, because not everyone that you're supposed to actually change their lives. No. Some people are not assigned to you. Some people are going to listen to other people. And very briefly, because there's a time we talked about the 5 types of people that you will never be able to help in life. Should we go through them? Yes. The 5 types of people. Number 1, people who don't think that they need it. If someone doesn't think that they need it, you will never be able to help them. Because someone has to need it in order for them to pay attention, in order for them to do whatever you are telling them to do. For example, someone has a problem in their marriage, and all of a sudden you're like, you know what, come here. I saw you have a problem in your marriage. You need help, and I'm here to help you. Just imagine, you know, like someone will even say, you know what, people who don't think they need it. That is why when people call me and they're like, you know, I have my sister, and my sister, you know, is dying, you know, she's badly off. The first thing I will ask is, are they willing to come in? Like, but some of them have told me, but you know, it's my wife, but you know, now let me give you her number so that you can call her, so that you can convince her. And I'm like, nope, not now, no, never. I know. I know. If they don't think they need the help, I am not willing to invest my time, my precious time. There are people that need it that I'm not giving it to. So why should I give it to people who actually don't need it? That is giving pearls to swine. Do you know how pearls are made?
Through fire.
Pearls actually are made through time. You know, the pearls that we see dropping off the fish, it's because they take time to mature. They take time to look good. You don't harvest pearls before they are ready. No. They even, by the way, when they are mature and ready, the fish itself gets irritated. So they go through a process of rubbing them off their bodies. And so people go and harvest ready-made pearls. So now you have toiled, you have studied, you have prayed, you have honed your skill, you have gotten the strategies, you have built your brand, only to waste it on what? On people who don't need it? No way. And by the way, you will see even the people that we lead, okay? You will look at someone, a person who needs help will actually come for it. And even a person who needs help but they are reluctant to come, do you know that when you avail yourself, they will be running. They'll be like, I didn't know you'd have time for me, but now here I am. But a person who doesn't need it. Have you ever seen someone seated anyhow that they want, and then they're... As in, you are wasting your time. Whatever you are saying is just passing by. And let me tell you, when you are in a session with someone, or speak, have you ever spoken to a friend? And in the middle of you pouring your poor heart, you look at their face and it's suggesting otherwise. It's like, I am not taking everything you're saying, like you're wasting your time. They're even looking at their watch. They're fidgeting on their phones. And then they're speaking small things. Oh, this person is waiting for me. This person is waiting for me. As in, they are giving you cues. But you're not reading the cues. Why? The fire is burning you. You want to help. You want to help. I want us to be very careful about who we help, because we can end up exhausted as people helpers. And yet we're not supposed to be exhausted. We're supposed to be energized for the journey. Okay? When a person listens to you, when they seek your help and they need it, do you know that you will give them more than they even paid for? Why? Because you feel energized that there is a relationship and it's a mutual relationship. We both need this. Number 2, they know they need it, but don't want to do what you want, okay? They know that they need it, but they don't want it like from you, okay? I know that is painful.
That is not you.
No, no, like you're not, as in, and by the way, that does not, that should never make you think that you are not qualified or you're not credible. You're not everyone's cup of tea, right? So the moment we go in with that mentality that there is someone who will fully embrace and they will be ready for this journey, and there is someone who will, and they will be like, by the way, this is what happens. You guys, some of you are getting into relationship counseling and relationship therapy. It's the weirdest, okay? Because this is what happens. The husband and wife will know that they have a problem. And the wife will be like, never, I am not going to Bahati. Never. And the husband will be like, she is the most equipped person I have seen in Uganda. Like the only person. If we don't go to Bahati, we don't have anyone else. And the wife is saying, no, go to Bahati, me, I want to go to another person. Like seriously. And when the husband calls, I'm like, no, let her have her way. If she has someone that she wants, let her go to that person. But if you really feel inclined to come to me, because by the time someone is making that statement, it's because they have followed you for some time and they're like, this is the person to help me. So I'm like, we can actually work. You don't necessarily have to have her here in order for this to work out. We can work on this alone, and she can work on it alone, and then we can be able to compare notes and see how exactly this goes. Okay? So do you see that so many times that people will know, I need the help, but I don't need it from Lavender. It's okay. You can be as convincing as you want. You can be as good as you want. Other people can praise you day and night. You are the major coach. You are the prophet of this generation. Don't laugh. And still, they will not be needing you. They will not be needing that service from you. And guess what? They can even decide to take that service from a person that is not qualified, according to you, to even have it. Let them have their way. Just like I've told you, you will never be everybody's cup of tea. So the moment you know that as a people helper, right? You will pray, you will have discerning sight. Do you know that someone can even drag someone without telling you? They drag them, they convince them. They're like, you know what? Come, this is the best place, this is the best place to, this is the best person. And they will bring them. Still, how they sit, how they look at you, how they perceive, how they scan the office, how they look at their phone, or even how they look at their partner. Because half the time they're giving them the bombastic side eye. They're like, Why are we here again? Why are we here? Why did you even drag me into this place? I know. They're like, yeah, by the way, let me tell you, like no one is exempted. So I'm giving it to you all, okay? There are some people that have come, and I don't know why it's mostly the men who will bring a wife, okay? And then they will not tell them the truth. So they will tell them, maybe I'm taking you somewhere. I don't know what they be telling them. So they bring them. They come to the reception, they sign in, and then the time comes when they reach the office, Papa, and they see Bahati. They're like, so all along, this is where you were bringing me. So you think I am that damaged? You think I am that? And all of a sudden, as in, for her, she has shown you, I am not willing. Don't waste your time. Don't, you get it? And by the way, most of them get so surprised. I'm like, Mom, wait for us in the boardroom. We are going to have this session, and we are going to go through with this session, and then after that, he will join you. And but we can't solve this one-sided. We can't solve this one-sided. And I'm like, who told you? If you need the help you came for, the help. Guess what? On the second session, the wife is the one who is calling. It's like, but don't tell him that I called you. But so now let's go to number 3. Number 1 is people who don't think they need it. Those ones will be there. Number 2, they know that they need it, but they don't need it from you. Remember, we're talking about 5 people that you will never be able to help. All right? Because those are wet wood. That even if you are dripping with fire, with a Holy Ghost fire, they will never catch the fire. All right? Number 3, people who don't want it yet. They need it, but they don't want it yet. They be thinking, procrastinating. Yeah. They're like, but it's still a small problem. I think when it gets bigger, we will get help. Yeah. When it gets bigger, so for them, they're like, but it's still small. What? He cheat just once. Those are small battles. Even if it's not cheating, by the way, even if it's a business and you're not making the kind of money that you want, whatever it is, you're anxious all the time, but you're letting the anxious build because they're like, when the worst gets to the worst. So most of them, they don't know that is the worst sometimes. But when they're like, I am busy, I have to go to work. And do you know that people who claim so many times that they are too busy, most times they have time within their schedule, but that time just goes like that. For them, they look at main events. They're like, now they be having 1 meeting a day, and that is a busy day. That is a busy day. I know I'm talking to you because I know your people helpers, and you're going to make those excuses. You're going to say, oh, my calendar is full. Is it really full? Is it? Eh? As people helpers, okay, we have to do better, okay? So, who don't want it from you, and then people who aren't willing to do what it takes. People who aren't willing to do what it takes. As in, they know they need it. They even came to you. Do you know that you will know those people? Some of you have never carried out counseling sessions, but when you start coaching sessions and counseling sessions, you will see them. And some of you that have actually carried them out, you've actually had a discernment in your spirit that, this person is just wasting my saliva. They are not going to do what I'm going to tell them. Because half the time they're asking the same questions that you have already answered. And they like want you to do it for them. They want you to make it simpler. And yet, the relationship here is not do it for you. No. The relationship here is to facilitate you to be able to do it for yourself. So do you want to become better, or you are wasting my time? And there are no refunds. Once you take the money, you have taken the money. Yeah. Once you take the money, you have taken the money. You're like, the session is 300,000. They pay for the session. Sometimes they don't know what they're coming for. So when they come, you're actually telling them, this is work. You're signing up for work. You're not signing up for me to tell you, to just make it easy, to give you everything on a silver platter. No. It is my brain and your brain. It is not just my brain, because we do not have people or help people by spoon feeding them. Yes. Even when we are coming up with action points, you must have them think. You're like, you know what? Now, according to what we have talked about, what do you think must be the necessary steps in order to get to where you want to get? If they want to increase their money, if they want, it's a weight loss journey, some of them already, by the way, do you know that the people we help have answers already? Yeah. They know what they want. Yeah. What they want is the facilitation. What they come for is the fire, right? What they come for is the accountability, is the mentorship, to be able to ignite them. They already know what they... So when you ask them, what do you think you really have to do in this season in order to hit that kind of target? And they will tell you, maybe I need to wake up early. You know, I have a problem of oversleeping. And then they will tell you, the other thing, I really need to keep a track record of my earnings because I've really been doing bad. Money has been coming, but I've not been really taking a track record. And maybe I need to be able to go out and network more. Do you see how they already know what they should be doing? Now, what they need from you is to be able to even further explain what they have decided to do, what it is going to do for them. If they can keep the consistency, if they can keep the determination, if they can be able to actually actualize it and put it into practice. All right? So I want us to finish this because we're still going on. People who don't think they need it yet, okay? They know they need it, but don't want it. Do you want to be, like, they don't want to be whole, okay? Okay? People who don't want it yet, people who don't want it from you, people who aren't willing to do what it takes to get there. The fifth one, they know they need it, but they don't want to go through the process to get there, right? Because the process is hard. The process is, and you must be patient with the process. Some people will come for immediate results. Remember, we don't have immediate results. We are not miracle workers. God is a miracle worker. And by the way, this applies to not just people helping and counseling, even brand influencing. Do you know that there are people who will come to you and they think you're a magician? All right? So people don't want to go through the process. That is why you must be able to explain the process. To explain the process. That is why they will tell you, for some cases, I think they even have what we call disclaimers. When you go for a procedure or surgery, they will tell you, like from the onset, that results vary. It's possible you came for a weight loss procedure, but it depends on your body and how it responds. It's possible you can go through a weight loss procedure and you become... I didn't say that. I didn't say that. You guys are the ones that actually said it. So the process is hard. That is why we must be able to master how to be able to take them through the process and make them want the process. And that is the messaging, the understanding your niche, and being able to communicate in a way that is understandable so that they don't come with assumptions. And even when they come with assumptions, you cool them down. You're like, now let's go back to the basics, okay? So you and I are going to go through this. You know how for most of you that have done C-sections, they will give your partner documents to sign. What are they signing? In case we give you a dead body, don't say. Like, seriously. You get it? Yeah, we are not guaranteeing the fact that this will go the way we want it to go. We want it to go well. All right? So do you understand that now most of the times, because someone is a wet wood, for those of you that are just joining us, we are talking about wet wood, and we are going to explain that in a minute, because they cannot catch the fire, because they don't want it from you, because they are not willing to go through the process, they are not willing to do whatever it takes, that even if you rub them or you stay close to them, nothing is going to change. Have you figured out some of those friends that will stay close to good people and good company will never corrupt their bad morals? Like, I like it, but her friend is so good. She is a wet wood. Hmm? Yeah. But the wife is totally different from the husband. Wet wood. So now we have talked about, you know, the exposure. when we are exposed to certain things, when we are exposed to a fire, we are supposed to catch the fire. All it takes, by the way, do you know that when I take you back to the scenario of the firewood, do you know that all it takes back in the villages, we used to have temporary shelters? You don't have to have like a permanent shelter. You don't have to put the wood in the house. So that brought to me, or to my mind, that we need structures in place, boundaries that will hinder us from getting the moisture and the dew and the rain, right? So we must be able to protect ourselves and say, I am under this shelter, I am under this structure, so that I do not get wet. So that when the fire of revival, when the fire of healing, or the fire of getting better, of catching up on, business ideas, of networking, of when it comes, I can easily spark and I can easily go. Do you know there are people that are so easy to spark? You meet someone and you're like, they're already ignited. They're like, where do I start from? And then you meet someone and they look totally angaz, and you first need to panel beat them before you can even begin the journey. And that applies to us as well. That applies to us. So let's build some structures. Let's build some boundaries in our lives, okay? And those boundaries are the ones that are going to save us. Remember, I told you the idea of where we overinvest in people, okay? And yet they don't want to be invested in. So that means discernment before investment. If you can write that, discernment before investment, discernment before partnership, discernment before anything else that causes you to pour yourself out and yet there is no recipient to receive whatever you are pouring out. So many times we are exposed to the stress, to the overwhelm, toxic relationships, because we do not have structures. If we have boundaries, that's where you will say, this is where you end in my life. Okay? I do not want that kind of overwhelm. I do not want... Do you know that you can easily read the temperature of your emotions? Yes. So when you get into a room and all you feel is anxiety, okay? Chances are you are in the wrong room, all right? And there is getting somewhere and you feel like, this is it. It's possible that I do not fit in. It's possible that these people are far ahead of me, but here I am, I have come, I am not going. I must rub and get everything that is in this room. Now, that is an attitude twist. You're like, you know what? It's possible according to how I am dressed. It's possible that whatever it is, we have all faced those awkward moments. But you're like, you know what? And they're business people, they're business people. Is my small business not a business? It is a business. So I am here. Even if this business is giving me 20,000 as profit at the end of the day, it is a business. Who did they call? Business people. Who am I? I have come. And I am not going. You're like, you know what? This wood will dry. It will be a wash and wear. Do you know that attitude, that is what attitude does? An attitude flip from the wet wood to understanding I need this. And you're like, my mind, stabilize. We are here and we are not leaving until we get what we came for. But sometimes we give up so easily. Why? Because we have become overly sensitive over time because of the so many things that have happened in our lives. And so anything that shows us we do not belong, we coil back into our shells. But how are we going to evolve and how are we going to help the world if everything that knocks, you go back into your shell? So what if someone calls you what? Short. Are they going to make you tall? Is that going to... So can't you, if you can have an attitude flip and you're like, I am short, but did they separate that they need long, tall or short people? No, they didn't. Yeah? They called all of us. So I am here. They didn't separate when they were making the bulango. They didn't stipulate that, if you're poor, do not come. It's okay. I might not have the money right now, but I have come. So the attitude, I need you to be able to speak to yourself, okay? I think David did that so well in the Bible when he said, my soul. You know? My soul. Do you know he referred to his soul so many times? But most of those times, he was telling his soul to remember. He was telling his soul to be grateful. We have tendencies of becoming ungrateful. You know? He was telling his soul, trust the Lord. He has not brought you this far to abandon you. The same one who did that, he will actually do it. So sometimes you need to remind your soul, and you just need to just have an attitude. So you came wet, and someone clearly saw a wet person entering. All of a sudden you're leaving dry. You're like, we had a quick dryer in this place, all right? And so many times, by the way, the problems that we have, the business problems that we have are not actually business problems. They are structure problems. Sometimes the personal problems that we have are not actually personal problems. So I see your prayers, but if you do not have structure, prayer is not going to become structure. Prayers are not going to become your boundaries. Prayers are not going to change your attitude. Your attitude is something you master, is something that you put under your feet, and you're like, attitude, you're not going to grow tall on me. We have seen someone, we don't like them, but what did they do to us? They didn't do anything to us. She's a normal human being. This world is so small. Chances are one day, one time, I will need them. Do you know that it takes you thinking some of those things, and you're like, so why was I becoming gloomy? While they were hugging me, I was just giving them my shoulder. And you're like, no, we are going to rectify this situation. We are giving a straight hug. And we are telling them how beautiful they are. If their lipstick, and we're like, hey mama, kakati mama, they put on a bright lipstick, I'm going to comment on that the same bright lipstick, because maybe it unsettled me a bit, so now I use it as a gadget and as a tool. I'm like, oh, that's a sweet green. Oh, that's a sweet pink. You know, I have beaten my mind 2-0. I'm like, you will become dry. Because wet things, who wants wet things? No, if you go to get firewood, do you want to get wet firewood? Remember we said it takes 40% of dew, of water, to come onto. And now let me tell you another thing that I've just thought about. Do you know that wood does not necessarily need to be out in order to get wet? It just has to be close to a wet wood. So now we have to be very careful who we are rubbing shoulders with, because chances are we are getting witness from them. You used to be open-minded, you know, about people, and all of a sudden right now you are closed-minded. Why? Because someone came into your circles, and every time they are looking at people through thermometers. Like, but that one, they have the poverty meter, they have the, you know, they have every meter in the world. Even the meter of how their relationship is functioning or how their marriage. You're like, you know? And so, you who was a believer in healthy relationships, all of a sudden, you're starting to see holes everywhere. You're starting to see problems everywhere. You came into contact with wet wood. And now a part of you has become wet. Not the whole of you, but a part of you has become wet. Do you know that if we are discerning, we can tell that a person has been poisoned? Yeah. Because chances are, and it doesn't take long, by the way, it can be one day. Do you know that you can look at someone and you're like, wow, that person has, they are going places. And then you see them cocooning with someone. And all of a sudden, you're like, the wetness has started. Yeah. You see them just standing with someone. Do you know that people who want to rub on their wetness on you, they do not rub it like in open. They do not be here networking. They're like, oh, you go man. You know, they have started. They have started. So that means we must be super vigilant. Even if it's a business deal, and you're like, but they're giving you business. They don't pay. They don't pay. Just imagine. Now, your mindset has twisted about that person. You were picking their calls, you were open-minded, and actually this person was going to pay. Chances are they had their own issues, or they just had stories. Do you know people can hear stories and they make that conversation legit? Like the first, yes, like they were there, they were the ones that were wounded, they were the ones that, you know, and they will speak. Now, if you do not have discernment, you go filled with the wetness. The next time they text, do you know that you can tell someone has changed their mindset by how they text back? Sometimes they were calling you your name, and now all of a sudden they're calling you dear, or they are leaving the hello hanging. By the way, if you're discerning some of those things, you will read in between the lines. You will be like, and if there's like a history a bit, you will be like, they came into contact with so and so. And Techebul is you. When you ask, they'll be like, yeah, we saw them. We saw them in a certain corner. So I do not want you to fall prey. Once you are a people helper, God expects you to be intelligent, to be discerning, to know where to put certain stops. It's my husband who read me a scripture recently. We were actually in a meeting, and he was like, do not slander a worker to their employer. I had never seen that scripture in my life. Otherwise, you will be cast. Yes. Google it. Never slander an employer to, or a worker to an employer. Otherwise, you will be cast. How many people have curses that they don't know where they brought them from? Because every time they have a boss's ear, they feel like in order for them to go high, they have to pull other people down. That is wet wood. And guess what? If you are a boss and you are not filled with wisdom and discernment, guess what? You become wet. Now you start seeing other people with different lenses. Now the people that you were so free with, you were mentoring, you were helping, all of a sudden, right now you're putting a distance. Why? Because someone is busy slandering, someone is busy pulling them down, someone is busy, and let me tell you, the curse that you're taking, you actually, sometimes you don't know where you brought it from. For you, you thought you were in a chibozi-bozi. So people help us. We are not including ourselves in bibozi-bozi. No. For as long as it's slandering another person, that is not your conversation. You are a people helper, you are not a people killer. You are a business builder, you are not a business killer. The Bible says that a foolish woman tears down her own house with her own hands. By the time the Bible, like, it just knows that some people are there and they can just choose to be foolish. You are bringing a curse on yourself, and remember, when a curse comes on you, it goes up to the 4th generation. How about that? Because if you thought you were going to deal with it alone, no. Your children are going to be cursed. And the children after, is that what we want? So do you see how so many times we will try to be as cautious as possible? When we are involved, before you even contribute to a conversation, ask yourself, let the Spirit guide you. You know? Is this a conversation worth contributing to? If it's not worth contributing to, I had better made an about turn and walked away. Or I had better called it to order. You get it? Because while they ask, who were there when this was being discussed? Your name is also being mentioned. Do you see how people's sight of you is changing? Why? Because they were like, if this person was discerning enough and influential enough, they should never have sat in the same place while this conversation. They would either excuse themselves or call the room to order. They will be like, no, if you want to have such conversations, you either have them away from me, and then people will call you for guess, but guess what? They will be the same witnesses. They'll be like, she's the kind who does not, she's a no-nonsense person. And at first they will say it as an insult. But later they will say it as, because everyone that is trying to slander someone, at some point they never want to be slandered. So at some point they will be the one saying, I can vouch for that person. I have worked with them for a full year, for 3 years, and I have seen, if you tell me that she spoke that word, I doubt it. And I can even put my hand. You get it? Why? Because they have known you that you are one and the same, and you are not a chameleon. So people helpers are never chameleons. Never wet woods. Always dry wood. Where there is something, chigenda, maso, they are catching fire. Why? Because they want to help the next person and they want to help the next person. So, and this is what happens. We become conduits of fire, right? We become conduits of fire, that it does not stop with you, okay? You spread the goodness and you let the goodness go through you. You become a channel of blessing. Do you know how many people have named their children Hilda? And sometimes I'm like, but why? You know, because you don't think you are worth it, okay? You don't think you have done that enough. But you're like, at some point, I allowed myself to be a conduit. It's possible this person felt unworthy. It's possible this person was undeserving. But because I extended my hand and that warmth went through me and it went into them and it ignited their world, they feel like, you know what? This is the best thing that has ever happened in their lives. What does fire do? Fire cooks. We do not want to serve half-baked things. That is why we are in this mentorship. We want to fully be cooked. By the time we are served, the world is like, yeah, the islands and nations have been waiting for your manifestation. But we do not want to wait for manifestation of half-baked people. Have you ever waited for someone? Let me just give you a weird example. In this age and era, you wait for a mugole. And the mugole comes and like everything is berserk. Everything is berserk. Have you ever seen these, what are these called? Eyebrows. Have you ever seen those eyebrows that go up this side? And sometimes you find them, the face is different from the body. And you're like, no, like they used wrong makeup. Especially the ones from the village. For me, I have seen the ones from the village. You will see someone putting copper girl and what, and you will, up here. You know, me answer. And you look at even you who didn't come with makeup, you're like, you know what, clearly if I put on that gown, I would kukumba and I would be okay. But like, because your expectations has been, okay, it has not been met. So I need us to prepare. Let me tell you, there are platforms that God is going to open. There are doors that God is going to open. There are nations that God is going to open. You're going to speak in places where you think you're like the grasshopper, like Joshua said, and you're like, and you know those people have six fingers and 6 feet. You know, they were giants and we look like grasshoppers, but you will be the grasshopper that is slaying the giants. You are going to enter those rooms. But when you open your mouth to speak, I pray that the fire of God will come out of your mouth. The refining fire, that people's lives will change. It will be one word that they write down. It will like overtake the whole of their lives. Okay? So fire cooks, fire preserves. Guys, we are the salt of the world. Just like fire preserves, salt preserves. And the Bible says that if we have lost our saltiness, what's remaining of the world? That means it's a dead world. So we are going to preserve so many people, okay? But that means the fire, we should be able to be ablaze, to keep burning, okay? We are not at any moment, even when, let me tell you, there are seasons I have been depressed. I am a human being because those things happen. There are seasons I have been depressed, but the fire is burning. Dare come near me. I will cast out the devils. I will put you in your place. I will rectify your marriage and I will go back to my depression. Like seriously. And that is what it means by God using us. But let me tell you, he does not use you and leave you the same. While you want to go back to your wallowing, he's saying, I have something else. You know, you will go back energized. You will go back to think about new ideas. Before you know it, there is an answer. Before you know it, you've gotten a breakthrough of your own. Why? You allowed yourself to be used to preserve another, and now God is preserving you. It warms. There are people that they just need warming, okay? These situations have beaten them down to a point that they have grown cold. They were good businessmen. Have you seen good businessmen? And something knocks them hard. And all of a sudden, they are down. I have met a businessman that has franchises around Uganda and is doing so well. And all they are thinking about is committing suicide. All they are thinking about is committing suicide. And all they want is, if you do not have fire, you go to a neighbor and borrow some fire. And that's what they do sometimes when they come to us. They have come to borrow the fire. So when the warmth, when you talk, and by the way, half the time you're not even talking about their businesses, you're not talking about, but you're talking about random things that God is guiding you to talk about, but God is actually getting them out of their ditches. God is establishing their foot. They're getting a different perspective about life. Now they're questioning why they thought about killing themselves. And all of a sudden, and sometimes they will never mention to you that that was the turnaround of my life. But guess what? There is a family that has a father going back to them. And you think that is not a blessing? You warmed them up by the words that were coming out of your mouth. Sometimes it will take just your smile as a people helper to smile to someone, and they're like, Bahati, sometimes it has taken a hug. You hug someone, and someone makes a statement after 5 years. They're like, I went to Bahati, and in my state that I was stinking, I was smelling, when I got to that woman's office, she spoke to me. There is someone, after speaking to them, I gave them back their money. They booked the session and paid the session, but they were stinking. They were confused. They were thinking to go back home and just take the rat poison that they had bought. So now they had come to just, I think, say the last words. I didn't even know them. And I tell him, go and have a good meal on this money. And I hugged him. A proper hug. Not a side hug, not a Christian hug, a proper hug. Yes. I don't think they had brushed for a month. That is how bad it was. Because they were heartbroken, they were shattered, they were slandered, their business was normal, work was normal, like everything was in tatters. And guess what? After 5 years, they made a mention of it. They sent me money. I think it was $2,000. And they were like, that is for the hug you gave me. In that small, tiny office in Namirembe. I will never forget you. Because that was the turnaround of my life. I felt like someone still believed in me. Because I told him, you can start again. You can be fine. Before you know it, she's abroad. Before you know it, he's a professional. He's doing so well. He sent me money for just the hug. Do you see how warmth does? That fire warms, okay? And then it lights up, guys. We need to be able to conclude so that we can leave our online, okay? So it lights up and then it shapes. Do you know fire shapes metals? Yeah. We are going to shape people's destinies. We are going to shape. You see how they put, you've seen those movies where they shape metals using fire and they do the swords, okay? Sometimes that is what we are literally going to be doing in people's lives and people's businesses. We are going to resurrect them, and then it creates energy. Fire creates energy. The fire that we have inside of us, it can bring dead things back to life. Dead businesses back to life. Dead marriages back to life. Dead dreams back to life. You need the fire. And I will say this in the interest of us concluding, because this message is still going on, in the interest of us concluding with our online audience, that the reason as to why Jesus told the disciples, never leave the upper room until you have been empowered. Until. Because he knew they were human beings. They would go and they would tell, hey, you were serving with a carpenter here. You know, we know you. You were the ones that ran away from him while he was being crucified. As in anything could have been used against them. So he was like, tarry in there. Stay in the upper room until the power has come. Because the people that you are going to serve, the ends of the world where you're taking the messages, people are not going to be easy. They are not going to be that easy. So you need the power. You need the fire. That is why they say that when the power came, when the Holy Spirit came, they were like fire, the tongues of, flames of fire. They needed the fire to be dispatched out into the world that is not an easy world. I need us to stay dry, okay? To stay dry. Because guess what? The fire also keeps dry, right? It dries up things. So whenever you go to the to the wet wood, it is going to burn, okay? It might take longer to burn. That is the patience that we need as people helpers, that they will take longer to burn. We should not run away from the smoke, but we should be able to light them up, because as we light them up, they're going to light others up, and before you know it, your influence is not going to be just the people that you're going to speak to. No. Your influence is going to be the people that you're going to speak to, and who those people are going to speak to, and who those people are going to speak to. So do you realize that you are going to influence a zillions of people? Not just these people that you're talking to. You're influencing homes, you're influencing companies, you're influencing the ends of the world. Okay? And our people, thank you so much for joining us. We will have to stop here for you guys. For the people back here in studio, we're still continuing. Thank you so much. In case you need anything, you know where to find us. The numbers are on your screen, and we can be able to chat, and we can be able to answer those questions, and then hold your hand in every area possible.